What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 19 of the Yard Podcast. I'm your host, Randy.
And I'm your host, Konu.
And we've got plenty to talk about this week with the 28-10 Dodgers. They were the first team to 20 wins. Could be the first team to 30 wins by tomorrow night. I'm sure it will happen sometime this weekend. But first thing, we just want to give a huge shout out to anyone who has taken the time to listen to our podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and keep leaving those ratings if you listen on Apple. Don't forget, you can find all of our social at Dodger Yard on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. And you can find my personal Randy_Radcliffe on Instagram and Twitter.
You can find my personal at Michael Konu, MYKALKONU.
And with that said, let's get into what's happened over the last week, because there has been a lot. A couple hours before Wednesday's night game last week, it was announced the Dodgers and Giants would postpone their game in protest of the senseless shooting of a black man. His name is Jacob Blake, and it was the Sunday prior. We saw the Brewers do this first because the shooting happened in Wisconsin. The Dodgers followed shortly after, kind of like most of us were hoping and assumed they would do. So Roberts, Mookie, Jansen, and Kershaw all spoke to the media after about their decision not to play. And here are some of the quotes from that press conference I kind of wanted to touch on because I think they are important. So here's some from Roberts. He said, "Players, coaches, Dodgers, Giants came together to use our platform to let the world know, let the country know how sad, how frustrated, how angry we are. This is not a political issue. I understand there's an election coming up, but this is a human issue. A black man being shot 7 times in the back. It can't happen." On top of that, George Lombard and Travis Smith were also going to sit out that game with Dave Roberts and Mookie, and he did say ownership was 100% supportive. Betts had decided he wasn't going to play in Wednesday's night game, even if his teammates chose to play, but he was quoted saying, "I know for me, I was already tight with everyone in the clubhouse, but now that everyone has my back more than I already thought, it means a lot. I'll always remember this day, and I'll always remember this team having my back. This organization has been amazing. They were all by my side. I couldn't ask for better teammates than what I have here." Kershaw spoke on how easy it was for the team to come to this conclusion, to be by Mookie's side, and he said, "More than anything, as a teammate of Mookie's, as a member of this team, as a white player on this team, is how do we show support? What's something tangible that we can do to help our black brothers on this team?" And once Mookie said he wasn't going to play, Kershaw said that started a conversation and they made a collective decision not to play that night. He said it was very easy to make that decision. Jansen also touched on how important it is that we show more love towards one another, no matter our skin color, beliefs, anything like that. It was nice to hear from all of them. They are all looked at as leaders on this team. And it was nice to hear from Kershaw because, as we've known throughout this whole thing, we need the white allies to step up and be a part and to speak. And Kershaw being one of the biggest names in baseball, it was great to hear from him. I'm happy we heard from Mookie. Same thing with Roberts and Jansen. I think you said you had something on this you wanted to touch on a little bit.
Yeah. So I didn't want to see them play. So I agree with them not playing, and I'm glad they stood in solidarity with the NBA and everybody else who decided that they wanted to make a statement and get people, talking about the continued injustices in the world. I was very happy to see the Dodgers sit with Mookie and support his decision. Clayton Kershaw he's continued to be vocal about it, and it made me glad that he's been the face of this franchise for the last decade. And I found it really dope that the face of the franchise for the last decade was standing in solidarity with the face of the franchise for the next decade. So I thought that was really dope to see.
Yep, I agree. And it's what they needed because not one player in that clubhouse is going to go against what Kershaw has to say. So if Kershaw says, "Hey, we're not playing," nobody in that clubhouse is going to say, "No, I think we should," of course they're going to have a conversation about it. Kershaw's not just going to tell people what to do, but when someone like Kershaw makes that type of statement that it means something and it's time for the whole team to stick behind it. And that's exactly what they did. Mookie almost didn't play Thursday as well, but After he spoke to Roberts and the Players Alliance kind of all spoke, they agree that they should use their platforms on the field. So he did decide to play after all. He has not missed any more games since then. I'm sure they are constantly talking about this in the clubhouse, what to do. I'd imagine there's no way that that's not happening. We've seen what David Price has been doing with LeBron and making Dodger Stadium a voting center. So I'm sure Price is doing his thing at home, keeping in contact with teammates and trying to figure out what can be done. So I'm proud of the Dodgers. Very happy to be a fan of the team. I know the decision probably pissed off some people. You need to get over yourselves. It's a baseball game. Like, at the end of the day, sure, it sucks. This is our escape, but you know what? It really doesn't matter when you put it into the perspective of what's going on in the world. So I was very happy to see that. And with that said, let's move on to a couple other things. A little bit of sad news for Dodger fans this week. On Monday, just as the trade deadline was coming to an end, the Dodgers announced they traded Ross Stripling to the Blue Jays for 2 players to be named later. Friedman had said the team made the decision to keep Gonsolin in the rotation moving forward, so this is what allowed them to trade Stripling, knowing there wouldn't be room in the rotation this year or really even next year. And Friedman felt uncomfortable putting Stripling back in the bullpen, which it makes sense. Stripling's been very vocal about wanting to be a starter, and he's done everything for this team that this team has asked him since he's been called up. And so I understand where Friedman was coming from. It was a respect thing. He wanted to give Stripling the chance to start. That chance is in Toronto. As a Dodger fan my entire life, I'm bummed. I'm going to miss Stripling. It's very different. I try not to get emotionally attached to players. It's very different when they come up through your system and have been there the whole time. Especially when it's someone like Stripling, who has been as great as he has been with fans, and he's an incredible human being. He's super nice. He was very supportive too of like Dodger Yard, if you saw us do the giveaway with him. And so he was supportive of all like the Dodger blogs you would see him involved with. So he was very big with the fan base. I'm happy he's going to get that chance to start in Toronto. And have more, and he'll be out there with Ryu. So they're still fighting for a playoff spot. I think they're right up in there. I'm going to be keeping an eye on him. Hopefully he gets the chance to go in there and be the number 2 starter right behind Ryu and do what he wants to do, because he deserves it. Really quickly, and then I'll let you touch on it. But on Tuesday, one of the players in the trades had been announced as the Blue Jays' number 13 prospect, right-handed pitcher Kendall Williams. He was their second draft pick in 2019, and he is expected to join the player pool next week. I think you had some thoughts on Stripling being traded. I know you did you look into Kendall Williams a little bit to see what we can expect to hopefully see from him in a few years?
Yeah. First on Stripling. Um, I wasn't surprised because we had heard a few days prior that the Dodgers were looking to trade away from their depth, and that screamed Ross Stripling. Um, but I am glad he's going to be able to start like he wants to. I think he deserves that. Unfortunately for here, it wasn't going to work out, and I'm glad they gave that spot to Tony Gonsolin. Sorry. As far as the person that got Kendall Williams, he is a 6'6" right-hander. He had a 1.13 ERA with 19 strikeouts in 16 innings in the Gulf Coast League in his pro debut last year. He fits a mold that the Dodgers have been doing last year and this year in the draft, and that's big right-handers who throw hard and have nasty slider. So he's got a high-level fastball, sits in the mid to high 90s, and then a good biting slider that shows plus potential. He's just someone else that we can see in this rotation down the line, or if not, he might be able to be like a really dominant closer because of his fastball slider combination. So the Dodgers are looking for projects that they could. This is kind of like the Alex Wood for Josiah Gray trade that happened. I can see Kendall being one of those that just was good in the system and then gets here and becomes even better than was projected. So it was a really good move for the Dodgers, and we should be finding out who else they got in that trade soon.
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear on that. I'm excited for Williams. Saw a little bit of what he did on Instagram. Like, he has some videos on there. So if you guys want to check him out, you You can find him on Instagram at K Williams. He seems pretty excited to be joining the Dodgers organization, so that should be fun. On to the next thing. Cody Bellinger has sat out Tuesday and Wednesday night. On Tuesday, we found out that he wasn't playing because of a lat strain while he got taking BP. They said it was minor. However, he hasn't played 2 nights in a row now. They're hoping he will be back in there Thursday night. We don't know. Obviously, lineup has not come out as we are recording this Thursday late morning. So Roberts did say if it was the playoffs, he'd be playing, but he didn't want to take any chances right now, which I don't blame him. This team has a 5 or 5.5 game lead over the NL West. They're killing it. Nobody's even coming close to him. Bellinger was getting hot. Last thing they need is to push him and him get hurt. Because we have a couple guys on the IL, which we'll get to in a minute. But Mitch White was recalled last week with Buehler heading to the IL. Last Thursday, Mitch White was called up when Walker Buehler went to the IL, which we'll get into in a few minutes. If you watched the game last night, you saw he's no longer on the IL. As for White, he made his major league debut on August 28th against the Rangers, and he threw 1 inning and gave up only 1 hit, and he struck out 1, and he did walk 1. But he did make it through that first inning of his big league debut, and he was optioned again, not a big surprise. And with him being optioned a day after his major league debut, White was sent back to the alternate site and Gavin Lux was recalled. With Lux being called up, Robert said he would play against right-handed pitchers, pretty much taking over for Kike on those days. Before I jump into the next thing, I know you've had some comments on Lux, so if you want to give those before we move on.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to preface this by saying that he hasn't been good since being recalled. He did have that one game against the Rangers where he had 2 hits, so he struggled. There's no question about it. I just want people to realize that he's had 90 career at-bats. It would be nice to see more in those 90 at-bats, like a Seager or a Bellinger, but not everyone can be that good in that time. So, what's done is done. If he gets consistent playing time and is still struggling like this, then there are going to be questions that need to be answered. So far, it's been 2 late season call-ups against pitchers he's never faced before. So once he gets familiar and the at-bats don't improve, then there's going to be a serious issue. However, I did want to point out that his first 90-plus at-bats is pretty similar to Verdugo's first 100 at-bats. They're both batting .217 through the first 100 at-bats. Lux has a slightly higher OPS, 639 and 625. So give him some time. Things really could work out, as we see Verdugo's just killing the ball right now. Or it could not. We won't know until he gets consistent at-bats. But I just wanted to point that out because I found that interesting. So give him some time. He'll be okay, maybe.
And you make a good point because Verdugo went through that bullshit up and down thing too from 2000. I think he made his debut in 2017, and he was constantly up and down 17 and 18, kind of like Lux has been with this being a shortened season. He was up really quickly at the end of September, and then he was, okay, you're starting second baseman, then no, you're not, then you're going to start in the alternate league, then or alternate site, then you're going to come back up, play 1 game, then we're going to put you back on the taxi squad. That was kind of the same bullshit Verdugo was going through. And then once we saw him get consistent playing time, we saw him live up to the prospect status that he was put out there.
He definitely showed flashes
of
being a really good hitter before getting hurt. This year, he would have started the season hurt, had the season started on time, but since it didn't, he was proven healthy, and he's been fantastic.
Yeah. Lux, I think, can get there. I don't think that guys end up highly rated prospects in the Dodgers system unless they're usually, at least not under this new kind of management over the last 5 to 6, 7 years, because we saw it with Seager. A lot of these, Bellinger, even Jock was a top prospect. He didn't pan out 100%, but he still panned out to be a very good big leaguer for us. So I see that kind of being the thing. I am not giving up on Lux. I said this to you over text, so I'll admit it on the podcast because I do have faith in Lux that it will not stay this way. But right now, looking at stats, I kind of wish the Dodgers would have shipped off Lux to Boston and we kept Verdugo. But I don't want to have any thoughts on Lux as a player until even 2021, like 3-4 months into the season. Like 2020 means absolutely nothing to me when it comes to Lux. Until we're a few months into the season 2021, I don't even think it's really fair to try and say, hey, this is the kind of player he is, because it is going to take time and it's going to take consistency. We see guys get consistency out there like Kike, and they just aren't doing anything. So I think Lux kind of deserves that same flack, and he deserves a couple months of doing shitty and consistently doing shitty before we're all going to jump on him and be like, hey, what is this? What's going on? Why is he not the player we all expected him to be? So
I did want to say one thing though, is that I've seen, you weren't the only one I've seen say that they would have rather given up Lux than Verdugo.
it's
I
only
get it because
based off current stats, so that's why.
I mean, I get it because Verdugo's been doing really well, but there is an excess of outfielders, so they would have to trade Jock or Pollock, and I'm sure they could have, but it would just been easier just to give him Verdugo, and I'm sure they just wanted Verdugo. Plus, everybody was already complaining about Verdugo having, was like 4 years left before arbitration or something like that.
Well, not arbitration, but free agency.
Free agent, so he still had those 4 years, and I think Lux still has like 6. So if they're complaining about 4 to 6, then the complaints would have been probably even louder. Now, obviously, it all worked out because Mookie signed that 10-year deal, but there are some context to all of that.
Oh, yeah. And there always is. It's different. Verdugo had the love because he was up for a full season. So, of course, that's why Dodger fans were going to feel the way they did and were upset, because he had that opportunity where Lux has not had that opportunity to be up for an entire year and be the player that, like I said, we're all hoping he will be. So, yes, of course, there's context. Like I said, I don't think that I will, I think I'm going to be very happy with keeping Lux. I just think it's going to take a little bit to get there. But I'm okay with that. Like, I don't care. I'm fine with giving him that chance. I'm not worried. I don't think he's going to end up being a flop. I don't think we're going to end up going, what did we do? Why did we not get rid of him for someone like Lindor? Whatever the case may be, whoever wanted him. I don't think we will be feeling that way once he actually is out there and playing every day. So with that said, let's move on to the next thing, because we do have a little bit to talk about. Dodgers starters beginning on Sunday will actually start pitching on 4 days rest. So after Urias's start, Robert said he would pitch again. So Urias started on Tuesday. Robert said he would pitch again on Sunday on 4 days rest, and that moving forward, everyone would be throwing on 4 days rest. I did see on Twitter some people were a little confused, wondering why this was happening for the first time this season, who they were skipping in the rotation. They're not skipping anyone in the rotation. They're just finally going to a true 5-man rotation. We have not seen them do all season. Prior to trading Stripling, they were using a 6-man rotation. So now that Stripling is off the team, they can go to a strict 5-man rotation of just in order of the way the games have gone. It's Urias, Buehler, Kershaw, Gonsolin, and May. So that seems like that is going to be our top 5 starters moving forward. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be cool to kind of see them on 4 days rest, because now we're going to have some consistency, knowing who's going to pitch when pretty much for the rest of the season, even though that's almost done. But with injury updates, I'm going to try to get through this quickly. As I mentioned earlier, Buehler went on the IL on Thursday due to a blister surfacing after his last start. He did only end up missing one start, and he was activated to pitch Wednesday night. So last night, he threw 5 innings and only gave up 2 hits and struck out 6. Scott Alexander did have to be optioned to the alternate site to make room for Buehler. As for Justin Turner, he was put on the IL on Tuesday with a hamstring strain after being hit by a pitch Saturday in Texas. His IL stint is retroactive to August 29th, and he was seen doing agility workouts on Monday with a couple of trainers and coaches. With Turner going on the IL, we did get Edwin Rios back, so I'm glad Rios is back out there. Just unfortunate Turner had to be the reason why he came back. Alex Wood was also activated off of the IL on Tuesday night, and he was sent to the bullpen. He will not return to the starting rotation as of now. Obviously, he wanted to be in that starting rotation, but it just didn't happen. doesn't not working right now. Other guys in there that deserve it. His first outing Tuesday night, though, he did look really well. He struck out 2. He did hit 1 batter, but through an inning of work, he looked like he was out there trying to make a point. And then last update on some injuries are Baez and Kelly. So Baez has been dealing with a groin strain and Kelly with shoulder inflammation. Both players threw bullpens on Wednesday, and they are expected to be back sometime within the next week, which is great. Bullpen has been doing pretty well. We'll get into the bullpen as a whole a little bit later. And this obviously isn't really Dodgers specific related news, but it is specific news to the NL West, and it will matter for the Dodgers. But before the trade deadline on Monday, it was announced that the Padres traded for right-handed pitcher Mike Clevinger from the Cleveland Indians. So the Dodgers will be facing Clevinger, but hey, lucky for us, he's a right-handed pitcher. We haven't had many issues with those, but that does help beef up the Padres pitching staff. They do have one of the best offenses in baseball. I believe Joe Davis last night said that no team scores more runs, averages more runs a game than the Padres offense. So pitching has been their issue these last couple of years. They've now added Mike Clevinger. So I think that'll be fun. And for those interested, I'm hoping we play him. The Dodgers do face the Padres one more time this season in a 3-game series in San Diego from September 14th through September 16th. Actually, before I get into this next thing really quickly, just so you guys know, the one and only Ben Scully is now on Instagram and Twitter. On Wednesday, he made his announcement, so make sure you guys give him a follow. It's at the Ben Scully. He's doing videos, pictures. It's been great to hear his voice, so make sure you guys check him out. And then on to the next thing before we get into kind of our questions and everything going on. Very sad news. On Friday, it was announced that the actor Chadwick Boseman passed away from cancer. He had been battling it for years. It was not public knowledge, so nobody really knew what was going on, and he just continued to go out there and put out incredible movies. He was a huge inspiration to so many people. His performance in the movie 42, playing Jackie Robinson, is a role that's going to be remembered forever, and it plays such an important part in helping tell Jackie's story. The Jackie Robinson Foundation actually spoke about him and how much he meant to the Robinson family and the friendship that they built with him over the years. He's going to be missed by so many people, and of course, we just want to give our thoughts and prayers to his friends and family because it's a devastating loss for fans, whether it's movies, baseball fans, anything. So I can't imagine what the people close to him must be feeling. I know this is a very touchy subject. I don't want to just skip on to anything. I want to make sure that if you have anything to say, you can say it. If not, I know it's a very tough thing to talk about. So did you want to attempt to find something to say, or were you good with everything being said?
Yeah. Uh, I have been struggling to like come up with thoughts because this one hurt like a lot. So he was obviously more than just like a talented actor. He's an activist. He was on the front lines speaking about issues in the black community as well as cancer. And us not knowing this whole time he was dealing with that himself. Obviously, he worked with kids with cancer, and he did the Black Panther while being diagnosed with colon cancer. So he had a tremendous burden, but never complained. Him or his team never let it slip, or showed how much he was really struggling with it. Of course, baseball fans know him for Jackie Robinson. He also portrayed James Brown in Thurgood Marshall, and of course, as we all know, he was also the Black Panther, and he gave young kids of color a superhero to look up to. He did a great job in that role. I've never met the man, but he is an example of black excellence and a black king. So rest easy, Chadwick, and we will miss you.
And one thing I just want to point out, because going around social media, I saw some of this and it kind of broke my heart. Please keep your mouth shut if you have something negative to say about someone, whether it's their physical appearance, no matter what it is, because I found out that people said so many horrible things about the way he looked, and it's because nobody knew that he was battling cancer.
Yeah.
So if you have nothing positive to say and you're just going to spew negative things that are going to hurt people, please just shut up, keep it to yourself, because you don't know what other people are battling and the things that they're doing. And he was fighting for a lot of people and doing things to inspire so many people. And then you have assholes on the internet sitting there talking shit on him because of the way he looked when he's out there trying to help others and putting his body through hell to make these movies. So, yeah, just try not to be a dick. It's really not that hard. Just keep it to yourself or don't even think it because there's really no reason for it to be thought.
It got so bad because of that video that was put out that they were talking so much shit on him that he had to delete his Instagram for a while before putting it back up. So, guys, just be kind to one another. Like she said, it's really not that difficult. You have no idea what somebody's going through. So, just if you see something that looks kind of off, don't just be like, oh, look at this crackhead or whatever the case may be. Don't be a dick. Think about what they could possibly be going through and just don't say anything at all.
Yes. So like we said, awful, terrible news. I really hope his friends and family were able to get some attempt at closure. It's never easy to get closure, especially when someone passes away that young. He was 40. He was in his 40s. I want to say, what was it? 43? Okay, that's what it was. Yeah, 43. So just awful, awful, sad news. Moving on to the next thing. Want to give a congratulations to Mookie Betts on reaching 1,000 career hits last Thursday. We brought this up on the podcast on Wednesday. They didn't end up playing Wednesday night. However, he did get that 1,000th career hit on Thursday against the Giants. And quite frankly, it's crazy to think about someone like him has already hit 1,000 career hits. And this is his 6th full season in the big leagues, and he has signed 12 years more with the Dodgers after this year. So there's a very good chance we could see Mookie join the 3,000 hit club as a Dodger. The team as a whole actually set an NL record with the most home runs in a month with 57. So congratulations to the Dodgers and all those damn home runs they keep hitting. Congratulations to Jansen on being named the NL reliever of the month for July and August. They just combined it because there was only a few games in July this year. He had 9 saves, a 1.23 ERA, 21 strikeouts, and 14 2/3 innings pitched. And then, of course, today, Justin Turner was named the Dodgers nominee for the Roberto Clemente Award, which is honoring the game's most philanthropic and humanitarian players. So make sure you guys vote for JT. We see how much he does for the community. I believe this is his 3rd nomination in the last 4 years. He's great with helping out the community of LA. You can actually vote for him to be the league-wide winner by heading to MLB.com/Clemente21, and voting ends on September 27th. So make sure you guys get that vote in for Justin Turner. And do you want to lead us into the questions for this week?
Yes. So, as always, the first question is, who are the pitcher and hitter of the week?
And so this is going to be, since we recorded a day late, we actually did not count last night's game. So this will be from August 26th to September 1st. So with my hitter of the week, I went with Seager. He's slashing .364, .462, and .591 with an OPS of 1,052. He had 8 hits, 3 of those being extra base hits, 2 doubles and a home run, 4 RBIs, and 4 walks. And then my pitcher of the week is Kershaw. After his last start last week against the Giants, he went 6 innings and gave up 4 hits while striking out 4, and he did not surrender a run or a walk. I also do want to kind of just give a little side shout out to Victor Gonzalez. He has been incredible out of the bullpen. He did great over the last week. He actually went 4 1/3 inning. However, he did give up 1 run, but that was like all he gave out. He's not walking guys. He's striking guys out. He's not giving up many hits. So just kind of want to give an honorary Shout out to him because he's been great. So if you want to give me your hitters and pitchers of the week.
So honestly, we were the same on both. Yeah, my pitcher was Kershaw, but maybe I'll throw a little note to Urias because he struggled and he actually looked really good the other day. Would he go 6 strong innings?
Yeah, he did.
Um,
He looked really
so
good.
yeah, but yeah, my pitcher was Kershaw just because he struggled the first time against the Giants and then completely shut him out. And I thought it was going to get rough after that first inning, but there was good defense from Bellinger and Pollock that saved him, and he settled in after that. Yeah. So then my hitter of the week could have gone 4 different ways. I ended up going with Seager. I had asked you earlier if last night's game counts because if it did, then Betts was going to be my hitter. But since it doesn't, I'll stick with Seager despite Betts having 11 or 12 hits in the week and getting on base a whole bunch. I went with Seager because his OPS was the highest, followed by Muncy, Bellinger, and then Betts. So either of those four really can't go wrong with either of them. But yeah, I had chose Corey Seager.
Really quickly, since we both mentioned Kershaw, I just wanted to touch on something because I did not expect this. I expected Kershaw to come out and have a pretty decent year, but he has started 5 games. He's won 4 and he's lost 1. His ERA on the year through 30 innings is 1.8. So he's doing good. He has 33 strikeouts to 4 walks. I don't know what happened, but Kershaw's out there, looks like going to drive line. Whatever he did in the
Yeah,
offseason
drive line really helps.
he's doing well. I would like to see him face, because he hasn't. No, he was supposed to face the Astros. It was supposed to be him and Bueller, but they both ended up not pitching. Or Kershaw didn't. He ended up on the IL, so he didn't get to pitch that. I'm hoping when Houston comes to LA for a 2-game series, we could see Kershaw, because I think that'll be one of the better offensive teams that we would see him face, and I think that'll give us a better idea of how he's doing against good hitting teams. So I'm hoping we get to see him, but yeah, he's killing it this year.
Yeah. On to the next one. So the Dodgers, obviously the trade deadline just passed on Monday, and the Dodgers only made one minor trade. Do you think that was a mistake?
I don't think so. Um, Only guy that I feel like could have really made a big difference was Clevenger, and I'm not totally sure what we would have had to give up for him. I'm gonna have to stick with what I've felt all season, and that the team they have, I think, is one of the best teams we have ever seen. And I feel like we keep saying this. I feel like I said it in 2017. I did not say it in 2018 because that team was all over the place. 2019 felt like even better. This team seems special, and I 100% believe that they're good enough with the talent they have, and that, as always, they're their biggest threats. If these guys can perform how they're supposed to, we'll be fine. We'll win. If they don't, I personally do not think it would have mattered who they would have traded for, because even if they trade for someone like a Lance Lynn or Mike Clevenger, if these guys do not show up at the plate, like what continues to happen year after year in the playoffs when guys like Bellinger and Seager are doing absolutely nothing, I don't think it would have mattered if we went for Clevenger or Lynn. I think we're at a place that these guys have to step up, because if they don't, there isn't just one player that's going to make us go all the way, in my opinion. I feel like they got Mookie, so that's it. That was our one player that should hopefully put us over the top. At this point, I just feel like guys have to show up, otherwise it just isn't going to matter. I know you feel differently, so you can give me your opinion on that, but I'm just stuck there.
Yeah. I agree with that point actually. That it's not going to matter if Bellinger, Seager, or whoever else doesn't help because usually it's just been what Turner and Muncy who've done all the heavy lifting on offense. So yeah, if nobody else contributes, then yeah, it's not going to matter. I do agree with
And
that
Jock.
point.
We can't forget
Um,
Jock. Jock has
I
his October heroics.
That's also true, but after watching him this year, I'm not 100%
Well, yeah.
sure. I guess
Yeah.
we'll find out if it's really Jocktober or not. Um, I did think some moves needed to be made, but it it's also harder to argue against a move not being made. I've said they need bullpen pieces, but that could be explained away by Baez and Kelly, right? Getting healthy. A right-handed hitter for left-handed pitching would have been nice, but that also could be explained away by Mookie Betts hitting better, or Kike doing what he usually does against lefties, or even marginal upgrades from Bellinger and Muncy. Just those two hitting just a little bit better. It doesn't have to be great, but just a little bit better would help against lefties as well. I also thought a starter like a Lance Lynn, who consistently goes deep into games, he leads the league in innings pitched. I thought something like that would be good just to help the bullpen because I feel like they've been overworked. But again, Bueller's back now, so Bueller can go deep into games. Kershaw's gone deep into games. Gonsolin is now fully in the rotation. He was a little off against the Rangers. He threw a lot of pitches, but for the most part, when he's on, he can go deep into games. So the only questions now are May and Urias. Now we've seen Urias go 6 innings last time, so that's a good sign. And if Dustin May can mix his pitches more, like Urias did against the Diamondbacks, then May can also go 6 innings pretty easily. He needs to have confidence in that slider and changeup, and just not throw his cutter and sinker. So those could also be explained why they didn't go into trading for a Lynn or Clevenger or who else. So I get I get them not doing that. That makes sense. So yeah, I guess only time will tell. I'm not mad they didn't do anything. It makes sense, but I still would have preferred it though.
I think they would have ended up with Lynn, but considering no team ended up with Lynn, I really feel like that ask was probably way too high because multiple teams were in on Lynn. The Rangers have no chance really at making the playoffs. So to me, it seems insane that he stayed with the team. In my mind, it just makes me think that the ask was way too high. And it'll be interesting to see how he plays out. I told you that I think Joe Davis had said on the broadcast when we played him on Saturday that he didn't explain what numbers they were, so I can't really tell you whether or not I agree. However, Joe knows way more than I do, but he said there were some stats that showed Lance Lynn was starting to trend down. However, we did see the Dodgers do decent against him, but he was a workhorse. I will give him that. Yeah. He definitely was a workhorse. He was out there. He threw, I think he came into the 6th inning with 100 pitches and finished the inning or something like that. So I agree with you there. I understand needing the length from the starters, and that's kind of been my only complaint with the starters this year. Urias, like you mentioned, he did well Tuesday night, went 6 innings, and he was actually only at 78 pitches. And he easily could have kept going. So he easily could have got us through the 7th if we needed him to. I'm sure he could have gone another.
They said he was pulled because it's a 4-day break. Okay.
Yeah. So that much I understood. Makes sense that Roberts pulled him. So right now, like you, I'm in the same page as you. May and Urias are my biggest concerns. That we really need May to get through that 6th inning. Because he seems to just go 5 and then that's it. Like he's just hasn't been very efficient at times. So if him and Urias can find it, I feel pretty confident about how deep these starters are going to go into games.
Yeah, and I would agree. On to the next question. What are you most looking forward to in this stretch run?
Really, all I'm trying to see is how many wins this team can pull off in a 60-game season. I feel like the NL West is a lock. Obviously, we can't just take advantage and play easy. They have to keep playing where they've been playing because the Padres are, like I mentioned, they're only 5 or 5.5 games out of first place. But with the team currently sitting at 28-10 with 22 games left to go, I had predicted on episode 13 that they would win 39 games, so I still think I have a very good shot. They would have to play 500 baseball for the rest of the season to hit that 39 win prediction. So quite frankly, I'm just being selfish and wanting to see if I can get my prediction right or over. I'm really just trying to see what this offense is going to do. That's my biggest question. Is someone like Muncy going to be Muncy? Is Jock going to figure it out? Is Kike going to start hitting lefties? Can Bellinger stay hot for these next 22 games or whenever he comes back? Is Turner's injury more serious than we know is like it's really my focus though outside of wins is really on the offense more so than anything. Cuz I know everyone talks about pitching in October, but I'm going to continue to stand behind this. I don't think pitching is the biggest issue. I think it is offense. When you only have 3 or 4 guys who contribute every postseason, you're not going to win many games. So we saw it, I feel like, last year with the Nationals, with Seager striking out with bases loaded to end a game that the Dodgers probably should have won. They should have scored more runs in that game 5, but they did not. They in 2017, game 7, they scored 1 run against the Astros. So for me, that's just where it sits. It's going to be what the offense can do in this last 22 game span.
Yeah. So I think on my wins prediction, I might have had the Dodgers at 33. So it looks like they're going way over on that one. uh, but I think what I'm looking forward to is pretty much what you're looking forward to. The offense. What player is going to step up? Is Jock going to turn it on? Is Kike going to remember how to hit lefties? Uh, Maybe Bellinger's continues to get hot and starts looking closer to the MVP Bellinger. Also, which pitcher steps up and shuts it down? Is it going to be Trinan? Is it going to be Ferguson? Is it going to be Brewstar? Who's going to really step up, show out, and shut things down for that bullpen and taking the Dodgers to the next level is something that I really am looking forward to in this last month,
Um,
especially because I think the games might get a little tougher having to play the Astros and the A's.
Yeah, they do have a tougher schedule. We still have 3 more against the Padres. We have 2 more against the Astros. I think it's
Them too, yeah.
yeah, I think it's 3 against the A's. So yeah, they will be facing a little bit tougher end of the schedule. I do have a question though for you. This is random. It was not one on the that I just randomly thought about it talking. So here's my question. I don't, I'm not saying Kike won't start hitting lefties. And for once, I need you to put all your bias aside about how you feel about Kike. Try to be 100% just like, look at this, pretend you were the manager of the team, no feelings towards anything he's done in the past. If Kike does not turn it around, does he get a playoff spot, or do you give that to a pitcher, or do you keep him in there because maybe defensive replacement or pinch hit? Like, is he making that a playoff spot no matter what? Or is there going to be some fight between him and who knows? Because we still have guys on the IL. You still have to think Turner's coming back. So which position player is getting sent down for Turner? So there are a couple things that are going to come into play that makes me wonder how all of that will work. So I'm curious as to if you think if Kike continues to play the way he's playing now, if he makes the playoff roster, and if he does he make it only as a late inning defensive replacement and pinch hitter, or do you think they just try to keep going with what they're doing because they don't necessarily trust Lux in there every single game?
I do think Kike makes the playoff roster. I know Turner has to come back, and I think a position player going down would have to be Lux. Now, I know Kike hasn't been all that great, but you kind of have to look at his body of work and hope that he can return. I mean, he's not the greatest hitter to begin with, but you have to hope, looking at his body of work, that he will be able to turn around at least against lefties. And of course, he can still also be a defensive replacement for somebody. So I do think he makes the playoff roster. Um, it's tough though because let's say, for example, for now, I don't know how long it's going to be, but let's say Lux has 2 weeks or a week and he gets hot that week or two. Now it's starting to be like, okay, well, he's hot now. Do we really need to send him down, or do we send like another pitcher down or something? So I don't know, but I do think that Kike will be on the playoff roster. I'm actually probably like a because he does one thing really well, and that's play defense. And also his body of work shows he can hit lefties. It's been a struggle this year, but it's a weird year. I'm assuming they're gonna think, okay, we need to put him in there and see what happens. So yeah, and it's just he's been here longer than like Lux has, so they can go back to last year or the year before and see, okay, he's had some big moments With like 2017, he hit 3 homers in the clinching game against the Cubs in the CS. Hoping he can return to that or something similar to that. So yeah, I think Kike definitely makes the playoff roster.
I agree with you there. I do think he makes it. And I think you kind of, like you said, you kind of do have to go off his body of work, especially with Lux not like, if Lux was out there destroying it and like there was no doubt about it, this conversation might be different. But Kike has shown defensively how important he can be. If you have a 1-run game, you're heading into the bottom of the ninth, someone like him at second base over Muncy or maybe even Lux like might be your go-to move. I did want to point out though, on Tuesday, I know you're kind of iffy. You like your eye test. Kike did not get a hit on Tuesday night's game. However, he and Seager were the only players on the team that all had 3 hard hit balls. So Kike did hit the ball hard in every at bat that he was in on Tuesday night. He just didn't. He had the one that looked like it was almost a home run. So he was hitting the ball pretty hard. It just, for him, it unfortunately didn't. He was hitting it to the wrong place. Like, to give you an idea, he had 4 plate appearances. It only counted as 3 at bats because one was a sac fly. But so I'm going to get rid of the 81.7 because clearly that exit velocity is not good. However, his 3 other at bats, he had an exit velocity of 96.6, 104.3, and 102.7. So he's hitting the ball hard, and on 2 of those, a fly out and a sac fly, the expected batting average was 660 and 610. So he's hitting the ball well. I don't think it's been this way for him all season. I don't think he's been hitting the ball hard like that.
I wanted to say that I've seen him do this before. I feel like there was a point in time, if I remember correctly, it was against the Astros. He had a few hard hit balls, and I was like, okay, maybe he's turning it around. But eventually, or ultimately, it led to nothing. So I don't want to be like, oh yeah, he hit 3 hard balls, and then he play again against a lefty, and then go 0 for 3 with 2 groundouts and a strikeout. So I'm not gonna
No,
get too
I'm
excited.
not excited
It is
by
good to
any
hit the ball
means.
hard, but I've seen it too many times before this season where he's hit the ball hard a few times. Same thing with Peterson. He's hit the ball hard a few times, and ultimately it's led to nothing. So I don't know.
No, I'm not relying on that. I don't think it means anything trending. MLB, our baseball savant, has him trending upward at 31%. I definitely am not saying that I agree. I don't think that means we're going to see something. It was just something I noticed and wanted to give him credit for, because if you do look at his MLB percentile rankings, it's fucking awful. And that's maybe putting it nicely. His exit velocity is, so obviously the higher the number, the better. 50 is average. So to give you an idea, his exit velocity, he's 22 percentile. His expected batting average is 13. His hard hit is above average. It's at 58. Hard hit percentage is 58th percentile. His expected slugging is 5, which is so bad. His barrel percentage is 14, and his expected weighted on base average is 2. So yeah, the numbers aren't good. He's got above average sprint speed and hard hit percentage, but that's about it for this year. So it was just something interesting. I saw that he was hitting the ball hard, but again, like you mentioned, it doesn't always necessarily mean it's going to turn into anything. I just found it interesting. Kind of same thing happening with Will Smith. Although Will Smith, we're seeing it actually like really pan out and play for him, but we saw that he has the highest, I think it was, exit velocity in baseball and the lowest chase rate, and he's still only like hitting 200. So I don't think the same will pan out for Kike, but it was just something that I wanted to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
So
no. When the game was, I think even before the game, I told you, oh, Kike is going to start breaking out now, or something along those lines.
yeah,
And then the bases were loaded, and as soon as he hit it, I was like, boom, there it is, grand slam. Obviously, it didn't happen. I thought it was going to be a grand slam, and I was like, oh, well, that sucked. And then his next at bat, or the bat after that one, he hit another long fly ball to the right field wall. So I was like, okay, he's showing some signs, but again, I've seen this before. I'm not 100% sure, but of course, he's going to be in there against lefties, and his body work says he should be. I'm going to continue to say I think he's going to end up breaking out because a friend of mine, actually told me something. Thought it was funny at first, but then I started thinking back, and I was like, it's kind of got a point. So he had said that um, Kike starts hitting better when Lux is there to show, look, I'm still a better player. So I started thinking back. It happened in spring training. Um, he wasn't hitting. Lux was hitting for power, but he was hitting close to 300. And then Kike was hitting like 4 or 5 home runs. And then I think the year before, Lux had came up, and then Kike started hitting well closer to the playoffs and in the playoffs a little bit. So I just thought it was interesting and funny. And once he said that, I was like, that's when I told you, oh, Kike's going to break out now. So I'm expecting it at any moment.
Yeah. So we'll see. Like I said, there's 22 games left. So if guys are going to figure it out, now is the time to do that.
Oh, yes. So the next question, we talked about the bullpen a little bit. Are you worried about it at all?
Nope, not even in the slightest. The biggest issue in the bullpen so far this season seems to be Dennis Santana, and I don't really see him on the playoff roster. I actually see him being one of the first guys that gets sent down because we now have Alex Wood, who can kind of be that long relief guy. So when they need to make room, I kind of see him being the first one down. Outside of that, I feel like they've been very dominant. I think one thing that I've noticed is Dodger fans, it's a lot easier for us to worry about bullpen struggles because we see it. However, heading into last night's game, this is where the bullpen ranks in all of baseball. They're second in ERA with 2.11. They're first in opponent average with opponents only hitting 191. Opponents slugging 282, which is first in baseball. And the whip is .99, which is also first in baseball. So I think it's a little bit different. I will say after these last couple games, Kenley Jansen kind of has me a little stressed. He has just won the reliever of the month, but I think that's now his second. Well, he didn't blow a save yesterday because it wasn't a save opportunity, but I want to say the last save opportunity he not the last one, the one before that, he just blew a save in the last couple games. That much I know. He
Against the Giants.
Yeah, he walked a bunch of guys last night. So if I do have a concern, it's probably mostly going to be Jansen. But outside of that, guys like Trinan and Gonzalez have been fantastic. So I kind of think that that's not too much of a concern just yet.
So am I worried about the bullpen? Kind of. They've been really good so far, but I'm not 100% sure it's sustainable. I feel like they've already started to show some kind of chinks in the armor. They could regress back to their means where the walks and the bad command finally comes back to bite them. They've been used a lot so far, and to their credit, they have done a great job to this point. But I feel like they might start getting tired, and that's going to ultimately lead to runs and leads being given up. But then again, if Jansen finds his command and trying to have command issues, but he still seems to get people out, and if Kelly Baez, Graterol, or Ferguson get to a hot stretch, they've all been good. But like if Baez gets back to what Baez has been the last few years, then I don't think there will be any issues. It's really just the command and the walks at this point, and eventually I feel like it's going to lead to someone getting a big time hit. But so far they've done well. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that.
Yep, and you make a good point. The walks are kind of concerning because, like I said, obviously they're not getting hit much. And come October, one run could be all it takes. So just need them to clean that up a little bit.
Yeah. Now for the final question, and probably the biggest question: are the Padres now a legit threat to the Dodgers?
um, It's hard for me to answer that because I feel like the answer is yes and no. And I say that because the Padres are a good team. However, they're still lacking some of that pitching. I want to say we've only lost one or two against them so far this season. We've looked pretty good for the most part. We're hitting their guys. However, we have seen their guys hit us pretty well, too. Here's my thing. I'm pissed off about the way the playoffs are set up this year because there's no seeding. It does not matter how good another NL team does. If the Dodgers finish first in the NL West and the Padres finish second in the NL West, if both teams win their first 3-game series, they are guaranteed to match up in the NLDS, which is pretty frustrating considering the Padres are either the second or third best team in the NL. So we get no benefit to winning the division. We still have to face one of the better hitting teams, and that kind of worries me because in a 5-game series, I'm a little bit more comfortable with our pitching. However, if Mike Clevenger comes out, has a good game, seems to shut us down, and Paddock comes out and has another good game, that's 2 right there. All it's going to take is for them to out hit us one more game. I see a lot of Dodger fans laughing at the Padres anytime I talk about them. I think it's Dodger fans have just gotten so used to beating up on them, and it seems to be like in another world that they can't imagine the Padres actually being a threat. But I'm going to suggest you guys kind of pay a little bit more attention because we saw this last year. They started to play the Dodgers a little bit harder. They're doing it again this year. So I'm not worried about them now. I think the only way they beat us is if we beat ourselves. But they do become a little bit worrisome, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I've actually seen quite a few Dodgers fans laughing at the Padres, and sometimes I feel like telling them ain't shit funny. They're not playing around. Um, I'm gonna say yes. I think they are a legit threat right now. I feel like they are now the second best team in the National League. Like you mentioned, they've already played the Dodgers tough this year, and they've upgraded offensively at catcher. They got Mitch Moreland, who's been a good hitter the last few years, and he killed the Dodgers in the World Series as well in 2018 with the Red Sox. They still have an MVP candidate in Tatis Jr. Uh, Manny Machado's on fire right now, so the offense is there. They have a great offense. They did, as we couldn't find out, they've added to the rotation with Clevenger. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Dodgers do against him. Like you mentioned earlier, the Dodgers do hit right-handed pitching really well, except for Zach Gallen of the Diamondbacks, as we saw yesterday. Um, so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do against him. Zach Davies usually pitches really well against the Dodgers. The Dodgers have hit Chris Paddock very well. Seems to be one of the only teams that completely own Paddock. So in that 5-game series, it's going to be tough. Let's say they Paddock's game 1. They hit Paddock well. Give the Dodgers game 1. What happens with Clevenger and Davies back to back? If Clevenger pitches well and Davies does what he usually does against the Dodgers, we're down 2-1 with 1 game left, where the offense, like you mentioned, could outslug the Dodgers. So they've also added some bullpen pieces. I do think they are a threat. The games are already fun. That first series in San Diego felt like a playoff series for some reason. So these games should be fun and very nerve wracking at the same time.
Yep, I agree. I'm really excited for that final series against San Diego in a week or so. Um, I'm hoping we'll have guys like Turner back. I kind of want both teams to pretty much be at full strength because, like I said, and like you said, it's been so much fun to watch. I'm a big Tatis Jr. fan. Love watching that guy play. I have a feeling he's going to be on the Padres for a long time, which I'm fine with. I like watching him play. So if he can't be a Dodger, I'd like to see him play in the NL West. It's good for baseball. I think if maybe the division was a little bit tougher over these last couple of years, and like 2017, our best year, I think more competition makes the Dodgers better. It makes them play better. It might be what they need to kind of fight. Like imagine playing the Padres in NLDS and it being a great series and the Dodgers walk out with that win. That could be a huge kind of boost going into the NLCS and hopefully the World Series. So it's going to be fun. I can't consider the Padres rivals because there isn't enough there yet, but over these next couple of years, if they continue to grow and be a legitimate team and Preller manages to not screw all that up like he does, it could be fun. I'm still going to take the Dodgers. I'm still going to take our depth. I still think we are the better team, but that doesn't mean that teams like the Padres or, the 2019 Washington Nationals can't come in there and kind of make some surprises that'll completely disrupt what we're hoping for as Dodger fans.
Right, and like the Padres' top pitching prospect, I'm blanking on his name right now.
Gore?
Yeah, Gore. He's a left-handed pitcher, and the Dodgers can't hit
Oh,
lefties,
great.
so there's another to for the Padres there. It's going to be really fun to watch these two teams compete in the next few years. As long as, like you mentioned, Preller doesn't like sell off the farm and they get more pitching, it's going to be tough,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
don't,
going to be
sorry, go
fun
ahead.
and frustrating at the same time.
I don't have the exact, actually, I might, but I was pretty impressed how they were able to get Clevenger. I definitely think I expected them to have to trade more. They gave quite a few prospects, but it wasn't any of their guys that were meant to like come out and do stuff for them right now. Like they traded away their number 7, their number 9, and their number 11. So 2 shortstops and a left-handed pitcher.
But they were able to keep Patino.
Yeah. Yeah, they kept Patino. They also got rid of Hedges, Naylor, and Miller, but none of these guys are really like the big guys that I thought they'd have to get rid of if it meant getting someone like Clevenger. So it's going to be fun.
Hedges is a really good defensive catcher. I think he might have been best at framing this year, and tops overall as a defensive catcher. He can't really hit all that well. And then Naylor, I don't know. He has not been great, so I don't think that the Indians got anything special for Clevenger.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't either. Indians want to deny that him leaving had nothing to do with it. I call complete bullshit. You don't trade Clevenger away when he has, I think it's 2 more years after this year. You don't trade someone like that away without getting like a legit replacement. So we'll see, but I think it'll be fun. Like I say every week, I'm still surprised we even made it this far into the season. The A's have had to postpone some games, so it is the first time that coronavirus had made its way into the West Division. It had already hit the Central and East. Let's keep our fingers crossed that it stays out of the NL West, because the last thing we need is the Dodgers to have to skip some games. And yeah, we're going to keep it going. Dodgers keep winning. Next week when we record, I think we're going to have like less than 2 weeks left of baseball. So, I've got nothing else to say. You good? Do you have anything to say before we?
So the Dodgers play Diamondbacks again tonight, right?
Yes, Kershaw.
And then the Rockies?
Yes, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then they're off on Monday. So happy Labor Day.
Yeah, the schedule always, sometimes I think they're playing somebody else, and then when I see who they're playing, I'm like, I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, no,
my mind's all over the place. So yeah, they should be able to handle this 6-game homestand. They're off to a good start, and we'll see what happens after that.
Yep, just got to keep it going. Kershaw on the mound tonight against Luke Weaver, who's been god awful this year. He's got like an 8 ERA, but those are always the pitchers that kick our ass. Yep. So we will see how that goes. As always, we thank you guys so much for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating for us on Apple Podcasts. As always, you guys are the best. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Dodger Yard. You can find me on my personal at Randy_Radcliffe.
And my personal Instagram and Twitter is Michael Konu, MYKALKONU.
And we hope you guys have a great rest of your day, morning, night, or whenever it is you guys listen to this. Go Dodgers, and we'll catch you guys next week. Bye, guys.
See you later, guys.